following is a GNC podcast production. Welcome to Geek Addicts, a pop culture podcast.
Hello and welcome to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast where we talk about all things geek. My name is Matt. With me, my co-host, who managed to break away from Persona 4 long enough to do this podcast with me, Bill Barber. How's it going, Bill?
You can't see my hands. You don't know I'm not playing it right now.
Fair enough.
I'm doing all right. Just
actually, you know what? I do know you're not playing it right now, because if you were, I'd hear the music.
The music could be muted. No, who am I kidding? Why would I mute that?
Yeah, you wouldn't mute that game. Don't lie to me.
Yeah. I'm doing all right. This has been one of those weeks where I'm like, I just don't want to be like, I don't want to do anything this week.
Yeah, I'm right with you. It was a crazy week of work trying to get everything caught up and trying to get a little bit ahead of the game, since I'm working this coming week and then I'm going to Maine for like 8 or 9 days. So trying to leave things in a decent state for when I go, because I also found out today that apparently they got like a co-op temp kid who they want me to train in Blast next week. So apparently he's going to be taking over for me while I'm gone, and we'll see how that goes.
Co-op kids. I remember being the co-op kid back in the day.
Yeah, I never made it to co-op, but yeah, I have worked with co-op kids before, at least one in particular, and it wasn't a fun experience.
Yeah, I've never worked with one directly. I remember being one, but
I gotcha.
Yeah. Well, best of luck to you on that.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Jesus. Sometimes, it's funny because I know that street and I'm always like, how the fast are they going?
You'd be surprised. People do not care on this road.
Has anyone jumped the rotary at this point? Any point?
Oh yeah, tons of times.
Oh Jesus!
We saw somebody wipe out on their motorcycle there once. He was fine, but like it was freaky for like a minute there, and we didn't know what was going on, how bad it was.
Oh boy!
Yeah, we've had some drunkards go right over that little island.
Lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been a busy week. Me and Alex went to a convention last weekend.
Oh yeah, how'd that go?
It was good. Spent a lot of money, probably more than I should have. We've learned that convention etiquette has been getting worse and worse every year since COVID. I've noticed.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But other than that, it was a pretty fun experience. A lot of people. It was honestly a lot more packed than it has been in the past, which is interesting because Kineticon is I think we described it we did an episode covering it. It's not going to be out for a couple of weeks, but we described it best as it's a convention that is very confused on what it's trying to be at times.
Yeah, is it just kind of like a general pop culture kind of?
That's what it's supposed to be, but it's very anime dominated, but then there's also a big gaming component, and then you also got like there's a wrestling ring, because that's just a thing at conventions I've noticed lately.
I feel like the vast majority of like pop culture conventions nowadays tend to have at least some leaning towards the anime crowd.
It was very big this time around, particularly with the merch selection. Like, there wasn't a lot of gaming booths, like to buy games, like retro stuff. It was mostly like a lot of anime figures, little like merch, knickknacks, and things. One manga booth, one hentai booth. Yes, Slade, there was a hentai booth.
Of course, there's always at least one.
So that's a reference to on Discord. On another server, I mentioned I was going, and someone at the server had asked like what kind of convention it was, and before I could answer, Slade just typed in hentai, which I responded, "Yes, Slade, there usually is at least one booth," which there
At
was,
least.
and it's hilarious because like the booth's like backdrop is literally just a bunch of body pillows and then a big flag that just says "Yowie," and I'm like, well, I guess they're covering both bases, I guess. And then
Hey, well, whatever works for him.
what I laugh though is it's always packed. Like that booth is always packed, and I'm just like, "Eh, you guys do you, I guess." Even
The
if
severe lack of shame.
even if you can get pretty much all of that for free on the internet if you look hard enough. But
Yeah.
yeah, and
Um,
a lot of art booths. I bought a few paintings. They're not close
oh
enough for me
yeah.
to
Didn't you said
showcase.
wasn't it like a FF8 poster?
So the FF8 poster was the one that I was most happy with, just because like you don't find FF8 stuff often.
Hmm.
I got also like a Your painting, Dangers of My Heart painting, and then this really awesome Lucina from Fire Emblem Awakening.
Nice.
Um, I also bought a couple figures for my backdrop, including what I thought was interesting because she doesn't have a lot of figures that are normal, but I found this really awesome Chi-Chi figure.
Oh, nice.
Like it's not her in the stupid like kid bikini thing, like armor thing.
Yeah, it's the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai.
Yeah, the end of Z, like because they've been doing a ton of these Dragon Ball figures lately that are really well detailed and super high quality.
Nice.
Like I've got the 17 one back there. I've got Mayan Shu as well. Just a couple
Mhm.
of them, but I saw the Chi Chi one. I'm like, wow, Chi Chi doesn't get figures like ever, and that's one that's not like weird. So
Yeah, fair enough. On the subject, though, I'll say it now since I'm planning on giving it the first try tomorrow. When I do the watch party, then I had this idea, like literally, like last night, I was going to bed and I was like this close to falling asleep, and like lightning struck, and I was like, "Holy crap!" All the old like Toonami promos and bumpers and stuff, like people recorded that and like put it on YouTube. I could take those off of YouTube, and I decided I'm gonna try and recreate the old Toonami block as a watch
hmm,
party with like the
that,
old Tom bumpers and stuff.
that could be cool.
So I'm gonna try to do a test run for that tomorrow. It's probably gonna be a little choppy that first run around because I it's short notice to just kind of like throw it together, but I think it'll be fun. Kind of like what Toonami's trying to do right now with the Toonami Rewind, but actually do it.
Yeah. Oh boy. I did
So
have
that's
a
something
few.
I'm okay.
I was gonna say there was a few moments at the convention though where it just made me like you start realizing that you're getting old. Um, so there was one booth of figures, and I remember there was a bunch of girls that I'm assuming were still in high school, and I had over one of my favorite things at conventions is you just overhear some of the most fucking wild shit.
I can
Um,
imagine.
but they were like, I can't wait till I'm an adult and I have my own place so I can just buy nothing but anime figures. And I'm just looking at them like, oh, you have no idea like
Uh,
about what life actually is.
oh, you sweet summer child.
Yeah, I think I said that like in my head at the time. I'm like, how nice it was to be young and naive
Yep.
before
Remember when we were
reality hit.
kids and we thought that we'd be able to do whatever the fuck we wanted when we were adults?
Yeah, it's like I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, I have like this one corner of my house dedicated to stupidity, and it's just because I like it as a backdrop. But like, it's like no, it's a lot more expensive, and you're not going to have nearly as much money as you think you do.
Hmm. That's for sure.
Hmm.
Um, so I finally did it. I'm finally caught up with the MCU. I still technically have like 5 episodes of the new X-Men series, but I mean that's like nothing. So I've officially done it. I'm done. Going to see the Deadpool movie this weekend, hopefully, depending on what time Cindy gets out of work tomorrow night. So
Hmm.
can finally put that behind me until they drop something else.
Isn't it really kind of sad how much of a drop in quality it's been lately?
It's just been weird because like with the first few phases, it was like, all right, we're gonna lean real hard into like the ones everybody knows, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, all that stuff, and then like ever since Endgame, it's just been like 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 unknown after unknown. At least for me, like I'm not like super well known with like Marvelverse or whatever, but like, and it seems like every single one is like it's a random hero that I've never heard of before, and it's based around some sort of mythology. It's like they're kind of trying to recreate what they managed to do with Thor and Loki and stuff. Um, the Moon Knight was like really heavily based off of like Egyptian mythology. Eternals was like I think Greek mythology, and it just kept going like that, like all sorts of different ones. Like the Echo, which I think is the most recent one, was like Native American mythology. And it just like there's just so many of those too, and it's just kind of weird.
Well, it's interesting, and when you think about it, because the original MCU, like the Iron Man, it's like the starting point. When you actually look back and think about it, the MCU originally started as it was a bunch of B-listers because Marvel didn't own the rights to any of their A-list like superheroes anymore. Because like Spider-Man obviously is owned by Sony, all the X-Men were owned by Fox at the time. And they literally they could only use what they had, which was a bunch of at the time like B-listers. Because a lot of people don't realize like Iron Man was not a mainstream hero around that point. Like he was known, but he wasn't like a Spider-Man or like X-Men by
Yeah,
any means.
yeah,
Um, and they kind of built the MCU originally around all these like lesser heroes that weren't nearly as huge at the time. And because it was so well done, now they're all like massively popular and well known.
yeah. Well, I mean, they were kind of already doing that with some of them, where because like some of the like first few phase movies and stuff were definitely like lesser known when they were just comics. Like
Mm.
unless you were like a super Marvel fan, I don't think you knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were until the movies
No.
started coming out.
Well, also because the Guardians were a completely different team in the comics before that movie.
Mm-hmm. So
Like,
like I get why they're doing it because they're trying to kind of like recreate that kind of thing. I feel like it's kind of harder with the series though, like because ever since Endgame, it's been a lot of series as
well,
opposed to movies.
yeah, there's just too much content there. The problem is they're trying to do the build up a universe thing again. The problem is though, it's because like we kind of reached the logical peak of where this was going to go with Endgame. Now it's kind of like we've hit this kind of wall now where like interest is kind of starting to wane. I mean, superhero movies in general just aren't that big anymore. Like people have kind of gotten tired, which is why I think DC is going to struggle with their new second attempt at a universe that they're trying now.
Yeah, well, I feel like Marvel would have had better luck with these newer phases if they had tried to implement like some of the other teams that are well known earlier, like how they're like I could tell as I was going through them, they're obviously trying to build up X-Men and Fantastic Four, like mostly X-Men, but Fantastic Four too. If they had started that process sooner, like in phase 4, then they probably would have had better receptions.
I think the problem is though, well, obviously licensing rights they couldn't. They've only now kind of finalized that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other issue too that's it's going to be a bane in their existence no matter what is the new X-Men could be great, but people are going to unfairly compare it to the original series.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
I
as
mean, it's
much
kind of
as
hard to beat them.
I know, I mean, as much as the new X-Men will probably be more accurate to the actual books, um, it's gonna there's a reason why the Deadpool movie is, from what I've heard, doing so well. It's because Ryan Reynolds understands that character, but also Hugh Jackman literally is Wolverine at this point. Like he is
Yeah.
completely mastered that character, and I get he's old now and he really wants to retire from the role, but it's gonna be very hard to replace him.
Well, at this point, he's retired from the role like 3 times.
He has, and I think he only came back for this one because of the occasion of it, which is understandable because this was kind of a people wanted to see him in the damn yellow suit. That was really all people wanted to see.
Yeah. And based on what I was reading, this is probably going to be Ryan Reynolds' last foray as Deadpool, at least in like movie format.
It's kind of sad because I don't think anyone can do that character justice now either.
Probably not, but I mean, you never know. Who knows?
It's kind of the problem when you put these big characters in these roles and then they become so iconic. It's one of the reasons why they kind of are in this problem now where they had to write off Captain America and Iron Man and stuff because they're just the actors can't do it forever.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah,
like I don't know how they're gonna manage because they've already kind of like semi-introduced Patrick Stewart as Professor X in the MCU, and you know he's not gonna be able to do it forever. So it's like, all right, well, you already kind of established him as the Professor X in this universe as well. So when they actually do make that X-Men movie, are they going to bring him back? Are they going to try to do somebody else because he's not exactly a spring chicken anymore? Who knows how long he'll be around?
So I always figure that's why the original X-Men series had introduced the younger Professor Xavier because they were trying to shift to the younger cast and do more stories with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, though it's one of those things, so you never know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I still want to go through all the X-Men movies again because it's been a while.
Yeah, they start off really great and then they get through a kind of bad period, then they get good again, then they get bad again.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's things I like about them either way. Like even if it's kind of like whatever, it's still fun.
Yeah. It's still funny to me when you watch like X-Men Origins Wolverine and like the scene with Deadpool, and you're like, wow, they completely missed the mark on this one.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to see where it goes. I just feel like Marvel is taking too long with like the ones people really want to see. By the time they come out, people just be like, yeah, whatever.
Marvel's kind of going through an identity crisis right now, which is understandable. They've been going at it for so long now. Like they're rebranding their entire company. Like I've noticed, like they've got a whole new logo and everything coming out.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But I mean, as a longtime DC fan, I've always been just kind of used to this because it's literally DC goes through an identity crisis every 5 years. So
I gotcha.
But yeah, so we've killed enough time on our little rambling. I think we should get into our discussion for this episode, which is also going to be mostly rambling. We were going to do kind of a catch-up style episode. Like we had done one a while back, I think a year ago now at this point, something like that.
Ish. I don't think we've been going for a year quite yet, but
I know it was around.
I think it was right after my trip, back in January.
Yeah, it was at the start of the year, anyways. But we were going to kind of just talk about gaming, like what's going on gaming-wise, and just other things like that. Keep it kind of chill. Should be a pretty laid-back episode.
Yeah, just kind of general conversations about games and gaming and what we've been playing, what we plan on playing in the future, and so on.
Yeah. Thinking of a place to start, I actually wanted to bring up Fire Emblem Three Houses turned 5 years old today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was so I've been actually like in the mood to replay that game recently, and I think the fact now that the 5-year anniversary just hit, I'm kind of like thinking maybe now is the time, because that is so that's a game that came out for me at like the perfect time. Like that came out, I still remember that came out 2019. I remember because I went during, we were still at Richards at the time, and
Mhm.
I had, during my lunch break I'd driven over to GameStop to go pick it up because I had it pre-ordered. I remember, and I'm not sure why I was so desperate to get it, because it would have been there after, but yeah, I remember I went and got it, but then it kind of sat for a bit because I didn't really have time to dive into a big tactile RPG like that. And then, of course, COVID hit, and we weren't doing much at that point.
True.
Um, so that was like my COVID game. I think I played all 5 routes and basically did everything in that game over the course of that nonsense back then.
Like a little bit off topic, but what was actually kind of cool about working together as essential workers during COVID is we not like at that point we're already working together and things were just kind of like whatever there anyway, so we could just hang out and it was no big deal because we were together all the time anyway.
Yeah, it was, that was such a weird thing because like it's funny talking to like a bunch of people I know now, and like everyone was all like, "Oh yeah, what did you do during lockdown?" And I'm like, we didn't. We were essential.
I
Like
continued working. That's what I did.
I had to go to work every day and get shit on by people outside for why was I out.
Yeah, right.
What
No
a
kidding.
weird time that was.
Yeah. I started playing Battle for Bikini Bottom in the past week.
Rehydrated or the original?
Yeah, on Switch.
Oh, nice. So the Switch port's gotten better, thankfully, because when it first came out, oof, it was rough.
Really?
Yeah, it slowed down like really bad texture pop in. The texture popping still kind of happens, but that's unfortunately just an aspect of the Switch that you kind of have to get used to.
Yeah.
Um, but it's gotten better. They've patched it quite a bit. It is a
Yeah.
very faithful remake, I will say.
That's good. I'm honestly not 100% sure if I've played it or not. I know I've played some SpongeBob games. I don't know if this is one of them.
Um, it's definitely one of the biggest. It's the most famous one. Mostly because it was a legitimately good licensed game back in the day, but also because that game has one of the craziest speedrunning communities like ever, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I watched the whole documentary on it. It's mental how people have like broken that game up, broken it apart to speedrun it. But that's also partially the reason why it got a remake, was because the community for it was so huge, even though those speedrunning tricks don't work in the remake.
Fair enough. No, I'm enjoying. I'm only a couple hours in right now, like 2 or 3 hours or so, but I am enjoying it so far. It's definitely a love letter to SpongeBob, especially like the early days, which is
Oh yeah,
nice.
because that came out 2003, I want to say. So that was like right around peak SpongeBob, right before the movie. The series was literally right at its all-time high.
Yeah,
The
it is
one,
pretty jarring not having a actual Mr. Krabs voice.
so that's something that's kind of jarring, is they didn't re-record any of the lines for that game. They just ripped the original dialogue from the 2003 game.
Which, I mean, plenty of remakes have done that, but I don't know. I feel like that's a game that it probably did need a redub.
At least get Clancy Brown in to do Mr. Krabs lines. He
Is
must
he
have
still
been.
around? I thought I heard that he passed.
I don't
I could be
think
thinking
so.
of somebody else.
I'm
I'm
pretty
probably thinking
sure.
of someone else.
Yeah, because he does. Clancy Brown's been in so many video games. Like he was Neo Cortex in the first 4 Crash games.
Mhm.
Um, he was in Jack and Daxter, Jack 2, I want to say. He was in Starship Troopers. Like he's been
Yeah, he's
around
been
for a.
around. He was in
He's
the Flash series, huh?
he was. He was also. He's been in a lot of stuff. Yeah, he's still alive, thankfully.
Okay, good. That's good.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah, the Shawshank Redemption. He was in that too.
oh yeah, he was in that. Okay, it's been a while since I watched that. Um, so yeah, I been playing that a little bit. Although I might have to put that one on hold for now because I think Thrak got to pick the next Game Club game for on SuperPod,
He did, and he picked a
and
really good game.
I have never heard of the game that he picked. I'm blanking on the name because I only read it once. But I
Uh,
had searched it, and I think it's on sale on Switch right now for like $6. So I'm probably gonna pick it up and actually try to play along with everybody else this time. So
so, for those who don't know, the game in question is Grim Fandango, a one of Tim Schafer's all-time classics. For those who don't know, Tim Schafer is a very interesting man in the gaming space. He is responsible for some of the most creative games out there that all tended to get ignored during their time and have since become like all-time classics. Like he made obviously Grim Fandango. He made a game called Full Throttle, which was also a like a point and click adventure kind of game. He made Psychonauts, a really underrated platformer, and he made Brutal Legend, the most metal as fuck game ever made,
fair enough.
among many other games. Grim Fandango was a cool one though. That was like his last game he made with LucasArts. It was PC only for a long time. It's since been ported to pretty much everything. Like I actually have it still on my Vita, and I might boot it up and try to play this one. No promises, but I might actually try to do the game club this time.
Yeah, well, he mentioned when he said the game he was picking that he chose that one specifically because it was available on most platforms. So, um, and from what I saw, it doesn't have a super long like play time, even if you're a completionist. So that's one that I could probably get done. I probably won't be the first one to finish it, but I'll at least be able to get through it and have things to say about it.
Hmm. No, it's a fun game. It's a cool story. Tim Schafer has a very he's got a very different way of telling video game stories, and that's one of his better games.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Um, Speaking of other games we've been playing, I've mentioned it in the past, but I'm still playing the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake. Um, that is just such a well-made RPG, like everything in every way.
Ooh, excuse me. It's a long day.
Yeah, I hear you. I fell asleep before
um,
the recording of this. I woke up a few minutes
I did.
beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Um, where was? Oh yeah, Thousand Year Door though. Like, it's amazing how a game from like 2004, 2003 ish can hold up so well. Even on, I mean, it's been touched up and remade to a degree, but it's still like the same game overall to at its core, and it's amazing just how well it's held up over the years.
Mm-hmm. I find myself thinking that about a lot of games, um, especially like games that I never played before from like way back, like some of the '90s games and stuff that I played for the first time. Like, blows me away how well some of them hold up.
It's actually really amazing to me. Like, modern gaming has just not been doing it for me lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just not interested in a lot of stuff that's coming out, or the stuff that I am interested in, and it's so far out that I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But
Yeah,
with the return, all the retro stuff that's becoming so much easier to like experience these days, I've been just like re-experiencing all these old games that like were forgotten back then, and some of them are really good. It's like it's a shame like that they missed out in their day, but now at least they're getting a shot. Um, like as much as the emulation's kind of bad, I really have been enjoying the Nintendo online markets, like the Genesis, the N64, Super Nintendo, like
mm,
libraries that you get access to if you have Nintendo Online.
yeah,
It's just been cool. Like we've been getting some good, interesting games in there.
that's cool. I haven't really played around too much with that stuff. There's definitely a bunch of games on there that I want to try. I just I just already have a bunch of stuff on my plate right now, and some games that I've already committed time to, and I want to finish, like Sandland. Like that's one of the few newer games that I actually really want to get through the rest of, which probably going to get put on hold for a little bit longer at this point. But that's that's part of my problem though, is like I I have such a limited time space for like console games, like games that are locked on like TV consoles.
Mhm.
So like if it's a game that I can play handheld, like chances are I'll probably get through it a lot quicker than otherwise, just because it's more versatile, you know.
Yeah, that's understandable because like you can multitask with a handheld console. You kind of have to be like shoved at the TV and kind of like that's got to be your thing that you're focusing on.
That's honestly the biggest reason why I didn't jump on Conquest Bad Fur Day last month, is because of that.
It was partially that for me, and just like time wise, it's just it was the last month was tough. Like that was a tough month.
Mhm. I will
Um,
say though, like that one stream that Aaron did for the end of that game, like because I never, aside from, because I think I realized halfway through like watching that that I think I have played the multiplayer on that when I was a kid. But aside from that, like I never played the story. I never watched anyone play the story. So like I was watching all that shit happen, and I'm like, what the fuck am I watching right now?
the early 2000s was a very different time. That's all I'll say.
I love that era of gaming though. It's just like the goofy ass shit that came out back then. It's just so much fun.
They would actually take risks on a mainstream like AAA games, like not like nowadays everything's so freaking safe.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's
that's
like
for sure.
it's like the indie games or Japanese games in particular where they actually seem to take risks these days.
Yeah. Well, hopefully at some point we'll see a turnaround and see more of that with like a higher budget and whatnot. But that's the thing, is like people don't want to take those kinds of risks with a higher budget, because if it doesn't pay off, then they wasted all this money and not getting it back.
Especially with how expensive games are these days. Like the amount of money it costs to produce these damn things. It's one of the reasons why I feel like gaming is going to hit another crash because it's like the games are just getting more and more expensive as they go on.
It's
But
because they're putting so much time and effort into making it look pretty as opposed to just making a fun game.
or
Like things
another
don't need to look pretty and be super edgy to be fun. Like it could be silly and goofy and colorful and like weird and still be a great time, you know?
oh yeah. Like another thing too is like this is just a problem that a lot of games that's kind of plaguing the industry right now is not every game needs to be open world.
Yeah.
Like especially because it's cool that your world is massive, but if there's fucking nothing to do in it, it doesn't matter, and it's just an inconvenience at that point.
Hmm.
Which is unfortunately one of the biggest problems with most open world games these days, that they're empty and desolate.
That's kind of how I felt about when I was playing Kakarot the first time. Like it was fun and enjoyable. Like just having like the kind of being able to run around and like whatever. Like yeah, they had like the fishing mini game, and there's the side quests and stuff. But once you clear out like a bunch of the side quests, it's like, what is there to do? You punch a dinosaur? Like, okay.
Yeah. Yes. What, you didn't enjoy punching the dinosaur? I'm joking, but
I mean, it was
to
fun
me,
like the first two times.
see, Kakarot's a weird one because that game is very much a love letter to Dragon Ball fans.
Like you,
Um,
you played that one for like the story mode and the cutscenes and stuff. Like it's like the having the open world and the vehicles, like that was just kind of a weird, like unnecessary thing. Like what the fuck do you
yeah,
need jump bots for? And like jump bots make way more sense in Sandland than they do in Kakarot.
yeah. Dragon Kakarot was one of those games where it was kind of like it's cool to fly around and actually feel like you're playing as a character from the universe, but like there was a lot of open space. Thankfully, the maps weren't super hard to traverse. Like the quick travel was very well implemented.
Hmm.
Um, so it was never really then like you could move at fucking supersonic speed all the time, which was
Yeah.
convenient. I will say though, the worlds were pretty dead after a while. I mean, you could only find the freaking peel off gang so many times before you got bored.
Yeah, trying to track down the fucking D medals.
Yeah, yeah,
That's because you need those to upgrade all your moves, and I think you need those to like upgrade the training room back at the Capsule Corp and stuff. Like, there's a lot of collectathon stuff going on in that game.
I will say though, I do love the fact I love the fact that it covered the entire Z saga. Like that was
Yeah,
nice.
honestly, I think like I understand why they always gear things towards Z because that's the flashy, exciting one. But if you made just like an open world like Sandland style game, but for original Dragon Ball, I think that would be amazing. Like just the high fantasy kind of, goofy, silly, like magical, adventurous kind of game as opposed to, just kind of recreating all the intense stuff from Z.
Yeah,
I just feel like that would work better for that kind of game.
yeah. Honestly, or even Super. Like I feel like Super would make a good game as well.
I'm honestly surprised they didn't like with some of the DLCs they didn't put in any super storylines or anything.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done a ton with Super in terms of games. Like the most we've gotten is like if you want to count like Fighters like storyline, which kind of takes place during Super.
Well, Xenoverse 2 plays around with a lot of super stuff.
True.
But the thing is I feel like Dragon Ball games have kind of like have slowed down a lot since Super came out.
They
Like
kind
I
of
think by
they
the,
they kind of hit their peak with Kakarot. Now they don't really know what to do anymore.
yeah. Well, I mean, we had let's see. And they have been trying new things. I'll give that to them. Like Dragon Ball the Breakers, like who the fuck
No one asked for
whoever
that.
no one asked for that. But I mean I'll at some point I'll still get it and give it a shot. I still haven't gotten around to that, but at some point I will.
I own it, but I
Um
still haven't played it.
what do you have it on?
I think it's only on Switch.
Is it? I thought it might be on PS5. I think I saw it on there. Well, if you have it on Switch, I'll see like if it's on sale sometime. I'll pick it up and maybe we'll play a game together at some point.
Maybe if I remember
Um,
to play it.
well, I mean, if I get it, I'm obviously going to text you. So,
True, true.
um,
Uh,
but I mean, I do like that Dragon Ball games are trying new things and not just sticking to the 2D and 3D fighters.
yeah, I mean, we've gotten anime games have been interesting lately. I mean, we got the One Piece Odyssey, which is I don't know how far Alex is in that, but from what I saw, it looks like a really solid RPG.
Yeah, I want to get that. I've been seeing it. Starting to get priced down a little bit, so I might have to pick that up at some point in the future. Especially since it's like a turn-based game, from what I understand, which is
Mhm.
interesting. I
Same
do
dev
also
as
have,
the Sandland.
yeah, which is weird because Sandland is like more like Kakarot,
Yeah, which is funny,
like in
but
play style.
they also made the Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes.
So it's just a bizarre trio of games,
They're good at
all very
making
different.
stuff. They're good at making solid, well-made games. I'll say that.
Yeah. Um, but then we had like Dragon Ball Fusions that came out back in 2016, I think. Wow, that game's getting
Ye-
old.
That was a very late 3DS game. Yes.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame that, that we're probably never going to see another one of that. Because that was a really fun game. And that was like towards the beginning of Super's life cycle. I think they were still on like Goku Black stuff. I think they added a couple of Goku Black characters as like DLC or like update, like bonus content. But they never released anything past that for it.
Yeah, the support for that kind of died once the 3DS died.
Yeah. Which is a serious bummer.
I mean,
I like that game a lot.
I'm still bummed. Like my favorite Dragon Ball game ever is still Attack of the Saiyans, and I'm still bummed that only covers the Saiyan saga
Yeah.
because that was
Yeah, it would be
such a
nice.
it was just such a cool idea for a real turn-based Dragon Ball RPG that was hard as fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Dragon Ball worked really well with those kinds of games, like a traditional turn-based JRPG, just
Hmm.
with Dragon Ball characters doing the Dragon Ball story. And even if they want to just make up their own story, it doesn't even have to follow the story of the show.
Oh yeah.
They can just make up their own, kind of like how the Shin Budokai games did. They
Hmm.
just kind of make up their own little alternate stories.
Yeah. Yep. Unfortunately, creativity just isn't a thing anymore.
Mm-hmm. But well, either way, I am happy that they're trying some new things, and I am definitely going to be getting Sparking Zero when it comes out. Super excited for that.
I can't wait for all the normies that have never played a Tenkaichi game. And they're gonna be like, why is it so complicated?
Well, at this point, like, I mean, considering that Xenoverse 2 is still getting support, still getting DLCs and updates and online support and everything else, that came out 8 years ago. I think it actually came out the same year as Fusions.
Yeah, I
So,
think so.
so it's been around for a bit, and it's still getting plenty of support. And it's, I mean, Dragon Ball, the Tenkaichi games are pretty much like the prototype for like these kinds of arena fighters. Like, because of the Tenkaichi games, we got the Raging Blast games, we got the Xenoverse games. That's kind of where all that came from. So I feel like they're probably just going to take what they've mastered over the years and just kind of make it like the Tenkaichi games, but with better mechanics.
Yeah, they're good games. They're definitely not for everybody though.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always remember me and Schnickerman played Tenkaichi 3 at Retro World, and we had no fucking idea what we were doing.
It's definitely a learning curve. Like, I remember when I first got the first Tenkaichi game. At that point, I was still very much used to like the Budokai style, so it was a huge learning curve
Yeah,
going
that and
from the old Budokais to Tenkaichi.
yeah, that and Tenkaichi 1 is kind of jank. Like,
Yeah, extremely.
even 2 is kind of jank to a degree. Like 3 is probably where they I won't say mastered that style because I still think it's not perfect by any means, but
The super armor was absolute horseshit.
yeah. Yeah, I still remember those days when Dragon Ball games were bizarre.
Hmm.
I still
Yeah,
loved like
actually,
every oh, go on.
okay.
I was just gonna say I loved how it's like every time you get a Dragon Ball game, it's like, oh boy, what's the story mode? Oh, we're doing Z again. Great.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I was actually gonna say I've been writing my first blog for the SuperPod site. My first ever blog, so go easy on me, guys. By the time this comes out, it'll probably already be on there. But I'm writing like a little article about Dragon Ball games developed in the U.S., which is pretty fun. I've never actually like tried doing blogs before, so it's an
Awesome.
interesting learning experience.
So you're gonna be talking about the good old Webfoot Technologies games.
Yeah, it gets brought up a lot. 5 out of the 6 are all Webfoot, so
I'm pretty sure that's all Webfoot made. Those Dragon Ball games, and only 2 of them are really good.
yeah, they made another game that was like about garbage men or something, but aside from that, yeah, pretty much.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, because they made.
Um,
I mean, I know you like the first Legacy of Goku, but objectively, that's not a good game.
yeah, I pretty much say that exact phrase word for word in the article.
Their best games by far were Legacy of Goku 2 and Boo's Fury. Because what's the shitty 2D fighter they made?
Taiketsu.
Taiketsu.
Yeah,
Taiketsu, but that's awful. Transformations was awful.
Transformations wasn't that bad. It's definitely not as good as Advanced Adventure, but as far as a side-scrolling beat 'em up goes, it's not terrible.
It was fine. It's just that there's so many better side-scrolling beat 'em ups out there.
And one thing that like, because as I was writing it, like every time I would start writing about another game, I would, excuse me, I would go over to YouTube and pop up my headphones and I would listen to the soundtrack for the game that I'm writing about.
Hmm.
And it's been really interesting because I realized that for all of these games, they actually had some pretty good soundtracks.
Yeah, no, they usually did.
Like because all the like the Legacy Goku games, the GT Transformation, and Taiketsu all had, well, as aside from the first Legacy of Goku, they all had very similar soundtracks.
Hmm.
Um, and in some cases, they just reused tracks from previous. Like I'd forgotten that Taiketsu had almost exactly the same soundtrack as the Legacy Goku 2 and 3 and Abu's Fury. But what was I gonna say? GT Transformation was interesting because it kind of did the same thing with the GT music that it did with the Z music and Legacy Goku 2,
Hmm.
where it kind of did like the 8-bit version of the American GT music. But they kind of like
Oh
combined it
boy.
with track. But bear with me. They actually kind of combined it with some of the music that they used for Legacy Goku 2. And in that particular format, with like the 8-bit kind of style to it, it's actually not bad. Like I actually, it was pretty catchy.
Is the Grand Tour in there?
I don't think so. Thank God.
Darn. Darn. Um, in all seriousness, this though, I'm looking forward to checking that out when you're done with it.
Mhm.
I haven't announced it yet, but I am working on a blog for the Superpod Network. I'm actually going to do a write up on the very obscure games from the 2000s, but the handheld Sims games.
Ooh.
Because for those who don't know, the Sims obviously a life simulation series, but they attempted to put the Sims on GBA and like DS back in the day, and you'd think that would be a recipe for disaster. But they basically, because they realized making a life sim game on a handheld was fucking stupid and was impossible, they instead decided to make like action adventure almost RPGs.
Huh.
So there's a whole bunch of them, but the ones in particular are like the Sims busting out for GBA and like the Herb Sims in the City for GBA and DS, which are like these isometric like top down action adventure games where there's like full on story modes and like are kind of RPG elements. And they are way more in depth than they have any right to be, and they're surprisingly really good. Um, and I've been just kind of working on a little write up on them because they're games that I feel like get completely forgotten about that should be talked about more.
Hmm.
Just because it's like such a weird concept. Is like obviously Sims on a handheld not going to work. Let's do something completely different and somehow make that work.
Yeah, I've never actually given any of those a try. You're intriguing me now. I want to try one.
They're they're interesting. The story, the fact that the stories go so fucking hard. Um, like in Herb's Sims in the City, there is legit a point where you get beaten up by the villain, thrown into the ocean, and you wake up in a bayou, and you just meet some.
Jeez.
And then there's a freaking like vampire like side plot and like werewolves and stuff. It's in an alligator man.
That's very bizarre.
This isn't a Sims game, by the way. Um, yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna probably announce that on the network at some point within the next week or so once I get a little bit more finalized with what I want to write.
I gotcha. That sounds cool though. Yeah, I actually, because I know we were talking earlier about how I'm gonna try doing like a little first attempt at like the Toonami block thing tomorrow,
Hmm.
and I don't think that's gonna be a super long thing because I'm only doing like a 4 episode thing with like little promos and bumpers in between. So ultimately, it'll probably only be about hour and a half, 2 hours. So I was thinking about streaming Fable afterwards,
Hmm.
at least for like an hour or two, something like that. Because I've been wanting to play them again for a bit, and I thought that would just be a fun way to do it. Just anybody who wants to pop in can pop in, and shoot the shit.
Yeah, Fable 2, that is a game I gotta pick up again. I started playing a bit of it. I just really need the time to sit down and fully immerse myself into that game.
Hmm. I gotcha. Well, Labor Day weekend's coming up. I know it's still like a month away, but
That's true. I mean, I'm gonna be knocked out for a couple days, not next week, but the following week, because I'm getting my wisdom teeth surgery finally done. But
oh right, I forgot. Yeah, because that lined up with my main trip conveniently.
yeah, that Monday and possibly Tuesday. I'm taking the Tuesday off, but I don't know how I'm gonna be, so we'll see there. But
But just do yourself, because how I don't know if you remember how far into it you were.
not very far. I got through the tutorial and I started doing the first quest.
Okay. So to start out, whenever you have the money, buy stalls. Because it's a good way to start out with just getting extra money. Because the way it works in Fable 2 is you can just buy pretty much any property if you have the money. And you can adjust, like if it's like a business or a store or something, you can adjust the prices. If it's a house, something that you live in, you can adjust rent. You can make it like, double the normal going rate, or you can make it like a quarter of the normal going rate, and that will also affect your morality alignment. But you can always change it afterwards, and then your morality will adjust accordingly.
True.
But it's a good way to get a good chunk of change to start out if you just buy, like, because the stalls generally are only like a couple thousand gold each, and like you're not going to get a ton of money right off the bat doing that. But if you pretty much get all the stalls available to you, you'll get a decent starting point, and then you can actually start getting the bigger buildings, because you don't get money from quests in that game. You pretty much just get whatever you find and whatever you get from selling stuff.
Yeah.
So pretty much buying and renting out buildings and buying businesses and stuff, that's the best way to make money in that game easily. So
yeah,
just keep that in mind as you're going through.
That's good to know. Yeah, that's definitely a series I want to get more into. It's just been like having time to play RPGs really sucks. That's unfortunately it.
True. That's a fun one though, because it's like it's not. You don't have to get like too bogged down with like stats and weapons and gear and stuff like you would with like a JRPG. It's kind of like, because I don't think armor value is a thing in that. I think your clothes are just aesthetic.
Gotcha.
So pretty much, as far as that goes, pretty much only your weapons matter, and there's no levels. It's you do gain experience from everything you kill, but like there's multiple different kinds of experience. So there's general experience, which you can use for anything, because the way it works is you get the experience, and then you spend your experience points to unlock skills and spells and stuff. And like, you'll have general experience you can use for anything, and then you'll have specific experience that you'll get from killing something with a sword, killing something with a gun, or killing something with magic. And they'll correlate accordingly. So you don't have to think too much about how you're doing your stats, because ultimately you can pretty much max out whatever you want to max out before too long. So you're not super constricted in that way, so you can kind of just enjoy the game as you will and just pop in every now and then and upgrade some stuff.
True.
So it's a good just like kind of kick back and just play. You don't have to think too much about it.
Yeah, there's thinking about that now too. Like another game I got to get back into is I was playing Mass Effect series, and I really want to jump back into those games because I still think those are like the best like sci-fi RPGs ever made.
My buddy Matt, you've met him a few times. He keeps getting on me about playing Mass Effect because he knows that I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and he keeps saying that like I would love Mass Effect.
I'm pretty sure you would, because they are literally they're literally space opera, the RPG. Like they take so many tropes from like every like space opera sci-fi show,
Mm-hmm.
and they just kind of mash it together into this cool like RPG
Yeah.
storyline, which spans 3 games.
Are they on the Switch?
They're not on the Switch. They are on Xbox One though.
Okay.
The Legacy Legendary Collection has all 3 games plus all the DLC. Plus they fixed a lot of aspects of one so that they're all kind of on the same level now.
Okay. I was just
It's
curious because I got all because the Switch store was having a big sale. I think for like the 4th of July or something, and
yeah.
I got the BioShock collection, which is another game series I never played, but I always hear good things about.
Hmm.
Um, so that's something I definitely intend to get into at some point in the future. It's just a matter of time, and I'm trying to kind of stick to shorter games right now so I can kind of get a decent amount of them done by the end of the year.
Fair.
Because the past few years, the amount of games completed has been abysmally low, and that's because I keep playing very long games with the limited amount of time that I have to play.
Yeah, games completed has been going down because I've been trying to balance that with reading manga, watching anime, reading comics, trying to keep up with all the hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, when you have a lot of hobbies, it really kind of causes you to split your time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
The little time you have, I should say.
Plus, there's also this. What we're doing right now is
Yeah,
essentially a hobby.
having 3 podcasts weekly,
Not to mention writing blogs for the site and
blogs
yeah.
for the site. Oh, speaking of games I've been playing recently, on 3DO, the episode is out now, but me and Thrak, along with Aaron, decided to play a game called Tripped, which is it's a match 4 puzzler, like drop down kind of Tetris style game. Um, very not amazing, but a decent enough puzzle game.
Mhm.
On Monday, I was doing my research for the episode. I got stuck in a game that lasted 2 hours and it would
Jeez.
not end. And I was like, I just want to go to bed, but I'm playing Tripped for the
I
episode.
I hate when that happens when it's just like, oh, I just want to get through this. I'm just gonna get through this little cutscene or this little like section of this level, and then I'll save and go to bed. And then it's like 2 hours later. I'm like, fuck, I only wanted to play for another 5 minutes.
Well, that's like when I first played Metal Gear Solid 4, the greatest movie I've ever played. Um, the ending cutscene of that game is legitimately 2 hours long.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's
So, but yeah,
great. Like, I fucking love Metal Gear Solid 4 as much as as flawed as it is. That game is the perfect conclusion to the Metal Gear story. But my God, the amount of cutscene.
yeah. I listened to that episode earlier the week. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, the
But trying
Tripped
to listen to
episode.
yeah, I've been trying to listen to more of 3DO because I shelved it for so long just because I've never even seen a 3DO in person, let alone played any of the games. So it's like it's one of those things where I have this habit of not listening to episodes if it's a game that I haven't played. I'm trying to curb that because I know a lot of these games I'm never going to play anyway. So there's not really a point in avoiding it.
Well,
Um,
that's kind of the reason why we started 3DO is just because it's really a cool idea to just like do a do a podcast about like a system that really nobody has heard of, and then just kind of try to cover it and make kind of a time capsule, as you could say, for the thing that will be basically immortalized, hopefully forever, as a reference.
mhm.
Um, it's
Yeah,
been fun though.
my hope is that I want to try and schedule a visit down to you at some point in the near future. I was gonna talk to Cindy about trying to do that like Labor Day weekend if I can arrange my mom to take Francis for a couple days. Because I was gonna say I'd like to play that Yu Yu Hakusho 3DO game with you,
Oh, the
and then
fighter. Yeah.
then I could pop on the show with you and Thrak, talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, we're open to anyone, so That'd be a fun one to do. Our first import.
Yeah. Oh, it never was released over here?
No, I think that came out before Yu Yu Hakusho was dubbed. To be honest.
Makes sense. I don't even think the anime came over here until like 2003, 2004.
Yeah, so it was way before.
Yeah.
Way before like that. It's a mediocre fighter, but it's fun for what it is.
Fair enough. Hey, I've played plenty of mediocre fighters in my day. I'm not ashamed or afraid.
Nah, I get you. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think what else have I been playing recently. Not a whole lot because I've been on manga. Well, this week has been a write off just because of this week's been kind of sucky. But yeah, I've been catching up on. Ironically, out of my hobbies, I think manga's been my most attended to hobby recently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, reading all of Pokemon Adventures has definitely been a big chunk of that. I will say.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Because I just realized I finished all the collector's editions, and now I'm on to back to single issues again.
Yeah, that's what I've been reading the whole time. But yeah, it's weird when you actually look back and you realize just how many of those we've read in the past 6 months.
29 volumes.
Yeah, it's actually a fair amount. Pokemon Adventures is actually a pretty long series.
It is. It's funny because 29 volumes is longer than Kaguya-sama. I think like Komi is up to 30 volumes in the US now. Trying to think of a few other ones. Like Yu Yu Hakusho is only 19.
Yeah, Full Metal Alchemist is 27.
Yeah, so it's like crazy how long adventure. I mean, technically, Pokemon Adventures is like, I think like 60 something volumes now.
Easily. And I know the arcs have been getting smaller as things have been going on, but still, it's still ongoing for quite a bit, and
As
they're
long
only
as
making more.
as long as they're still making games and Kasuga feels like writing it, yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah. I think that's the longest like manga series I currently own. Now that I think about it,
Longer than Inuyasha.
Inuyasha's 52. Well, I think Inuyasha might be longer on technicality, but I think by what I own, but technically, Pokemon Adventures has more volumes at this point.
I gotcha. As far as what I own, I think Naruto still holds the belt on that one.
How long's Naruto?
Naruto, not counting Boruto, is 72 volumes, and
Okay.
there was a 73rd quote unquote. It's actually like I think when you actually look at the side of it, it says like seven, like because it's just called Naruto, the Seventh Hokage and the Seven Springs, I think is the name of it. And then when you open it up, the chapters are like they're numbered weird. They're like 700 plus 1, 700 plus 2. Because I think the original manga had 700 chapters total.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of a weird numbering thing where it's very clearly supposed to be like the 73rd volume, but they just don't want to say it for some reason.
Yeah. Yeah, because they they get that finalized number and then they don't really want to continue.
Yeah. So if you want to look at it that way, the 73 volumes of Naruto before Boruto starts, and then I also have like the first, I think, 12 volumes of that. So I do need to catch up with that at some point, but yeah.
Did you see Komi's officially entering its final arc?
Oh yeah, I think I did see something about that.
It's like another one's ending. It's like damn. It's kind of funny. All the fans have been complaining that they've been dragging out that story, but now that it's ending, they're all like, "No, we don't want it to end."
What's funny is my wife said she wanted a Kindle recently, which is weird because her and I have always been very outspoken, like physical media when it comes to like reading and stuff. Like it's not even a matter of like wanting to own the book, which I mean for me it is a little bit, but it's more like the experience of holding the book, turning the page. It's different, rather than just
Yeah.
swiping on a Kindle. But since she wants to get one anyway, I'm probably going to install the Shonen Jump app on it and try to make her read some manga.
Yeah. I mean, hey, they're worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just good to have, and I'm already paying for it. So if she wants to read something out of it, there's plenty there just on that alone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, she could read Spy Family. She loves Spy
true.
Family.
I think
And
that's
Kaguya is on there. Then there's the big three is on there. All the Dragon Ball stuff, which I mean I have all the physicals of that anyway, but yeah, there's plenty on there. So yeah, I definitely want to try and do a stream of Fable because I want to just kind of get that moving because I've been due for a replay of that series for a while now, and
yeah,
it's just the best way to go about it. Also, Cindy and I were talking about like as like a together thing, streaming the like Mortal Kombat, starting with like where the reboot started at 9.
Oh, do like 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, probably do the DC one as well, but Mortal Kombat versus DC.
Oh, that game. That game is technically good, but the violence is so neutered in it that it's so weird.
Yeah, but I still have fun with it. What was it? Heroic Brutality.
Yeah, Heroic Brutality. It's also pre New 52 DC, so it was still in that era before things got weird.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's something that we're definitely planning on doing because I found my copy of 9. I have 10 already on the Xbox. I just need to get because I technically have 11 on Switch, but I want to get it on Xbox because first of all it just looks better, and second
you don't
want to
look at PS2 models.
No, it's not even as good as PS2 models, honestly. I mean, it plays fine, which is like the most important thing. But like,
that's the best part about
ugly.
Mortal Kombat 11 on Switch is it plays so good, but it looks like shit.
Yeah. But the other reason is because I don't have a capture card yet. I will get one eventually. But right now I don't have one, so I'm kind of stuck on the Xbox when it comes to streaming on Discord. So
yeah, I have a capture card, but I haven't really. No, that's a hard drive. Wait, I bought this little thing. I haven't tested it yet, but I might give it a shot at some point.
Yeah. And another big reason I want to get a capture card is because technically it's Xander's, but we have a Retron Square or Retron Cube. I forget which one it is. But it's basically a Retron that's specifically dedicated to GBA, GBC, all the Game Boys. And it does go off of an HDMI. So theoretically, I could stream the Legacy of Goku games, which would be really fun for me.
True.
Not to mention, all the other Game Boy games I have.
No, that's true.
And if I got one of the like HDMI to AV converters, I have PS2 games I could do, GameCube, N64, all that. So opens up a world of possibilities once I get that. So I'm looking forward to doing it at some point.
So I have a specific one I use. I'll send you the link to it. It's a solid converter.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, other than that, we've been going on for just over an hour. Any other games you wanted to highlight, or do you think we should wrap this up?
Not in particular. Like I said, I haven't been playing a ton lately because all of the time that I've been devoting to gaming, I've kind of been setting aside to try and work out the logistics for the watch party streams, and I've been working on my blog the past few nights, so that's kind of been taking up my free time. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, there's plenty of games I want to play. Like, there's tons of games I want to stream, but most of them are on either Switch or PlayStation. Which, I mean, still, I could still stream them. I just wouldn't be able to do it to Discord, which is what I really want to do. Because kind of like, you know, part of the whole reason why I'm trying to get into that is to get to know people in the network better. So,
no, I get you there. But yeah, I think that'll do for this episode of Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can also find us over on the SuperPod network of podcasters. Awesome network featuring a ton of great shows like SuperPod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, A Novel Console, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, Remember 64, Bar Silence, Friday Night Gamecast, Find Time, The Elder Trolls, Gaming Together, and then all of our shows. I believe that's everybody. I probably forgot somebody. I always forget somebody, but I'll apologize later.
One of these days you'll remember to keep the list tabbed.
I either get everybody and I mess up Tommy's name, or I forget somebody. So we'll see. One of these days I'll get it. But other than that, guys, you can find all of our links at linktree/theBarberGames, and you can find us chilling around either at the SuperPod Discord or the GNC Network Discord. We kind of hang out in both of them these days. And with that, everybody, we'll see you all later.
Have a good one.